All right, welcome to Bet the Edge, Monday, October 3rd. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. I am Jay Croucher, joined as always by Drew Dinsick. Coming up, we're going to break down main reactions to yesterday's game, adjustments of some power rankings, two teams that we think could rise up into the top tier, and then we break down Rams, Niners, all in Rams tonight, and we'll get into the reasons why. Drew, how are you, mate? How was your weekend, and what were the big takeaways from yesterday?
Well, the weekend was tremendous. We are into the month of October, which is the best sports month of the year. I don't really think there's much question about that, at least in my mind. NBA coming back this month, World Series, really just the Fall Classic in general is super, super fun. So I'm in a great mood. Love October. And it was a winning week so far. Now, the Rams, if they don't come through for us tonight, I don't actually have to do the numbers. I might not have a winning week, so in the balance a little bit here. But ultimately, I was pretty satisfied with the results yesterday. In general, the entertainment factor of the NFL was a little higher, which is a little bit of a relief. Weeks 2 and 3 were kind of a slog, and we're starting to see scoring tick up. We had a couple of really exciting finishes. Absolutely. The most annoying part of the weekend, surely, was anyone reacting to the end of that Bills-Ravens game saying that the Ravens should have kicked a field goal. If that's your opinion, you can leave the space anytime you feel like it. If you thought that the Ravens were going to hold on to a 3-point win against the Bills, you are sorely mistaken. That was 100% the correct decision to go for the touchdown. And realistically, I think Lamar missed something early in that play that looked like, to me at least, Duvernay was open for the go-ahead touchdown. But ultimately, that was the big leverage game in terms of both the one-seed seeding in the AFC as well as our MVP race, and then Nick Sirianni. Put it on a coaching clinic, Jay, a clinic.
There's a lot to lose now.
I thought the Jags could sneak in the back door, but the fumble by Lawrence in the final 2 minutes there was a tough one to swallow. That said, still give the Jags credit for some of the quality of play we saw. I still think that's a team that is going to be in the discussion come the end of this season, especially considering that the rest of the AFC South is pretty garbage.
Yes, it is. I think with the Harbaugh thing, obviously he's had a lot of these high leverage decisions back end of last season, start of this season, and basically every single one of them has gone against him. But yeah. I think that every decision was correct outside of he went for 2 against Green Bay with Tyler Huntley with like 40 seconds left to win the game, which I think was the wrong decision, because when you go for 2 with that much time left to take a 1-point lead, then you're incentivizing Aaron Rodgers to march down the field and kick a field goal, whereas usually they would just probably be kneeling it out or be conservative. But my big takeaway from yesterday is that I think the Ravens might have screwed the rest of the AFC by not putting to bed the Bills 1 seed when they had the chance, because now this sleeping giant. I mean, I haven't looked at what the market has gone back up at, but I would make fair Bills 1 seed like plus 125 to plus 150, that range now. You could argue even shorter. They certainly have the path, and it really looks like now they have the tiebreak over Baltimore as well. If that's the team that rises up, you're not really worried about any team in the AFC South as much as we love the Jacksonville Jaguars to threaten the Bills for the 1 seed. So it's looking like Bills Chiefs, and that game in 2 weeks is going to be, well, it will be the highest leverage regular season game of the season, not just for the 1 seed, but that could decide the MVP race in week 6. Now, the 2 big teams, well, it's really 3 now. Eagles, Bills, Chiefs. That's your tier 1. Those are the 3 favorites for the Super Bowl. A little bit of delineation between them as well. The Bills plus 425 on PointsBet, the Chiefs plus 650, the Eagles plus 750. Do you agree that there is a gap between those 3 teams and the rest of the league?
I think just considering health, just considering schedule, I would 100% agree with this. The Chiefs are sort of the one team that I am a little bit less, confident that they're going to stay there and that they deserve that high of a rating. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is still the guy, but and I know you brought it up that the MVP leverage is going to be big time in that Bills Chiefs game, but is Patrick Mahomes even the best, most valuable Chief right now, or is it Travis Kelce? Because it sure
Come
feels
on,
like
come
Kelce is
on.
kind of the
Yes, Patrick
he's
Mahomes is the most valuable Chief.
I just want to give Kelce a little bit of a shine because,
He's so
I
great.
mean, my goodness gracious, he was able to get open on basically every key down last night to put away a Bucs team that was coming back with a little bit of spirit. So that all that said, there are still some things I think the Chiefs have to work out just overall from a team standpoint, even in the, a very convincing win last night on the road against a team we thought was competitors. But yeah, I don't think you can argue it. Top 3 in power ratings better be Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, and there should be a gap between them in the next year.
Yep. I think the market does have it a little bit wrong in that I would have the Eagles above the Chiefs right now, just because, one, the Eagles won't have to go through the Bills to get to the Super Bowl. And then 2, I mean, the Eagles are getting close to even money for the 1 seed, which is going to be a significant advantage. One, you don't have to play an extra game, whereas the Chiefs might have to have a first round game against like the Chargers or something, which isn't ideal. So I think that the Eagles should be favored above the Chiefs, even though, I mean, the market would have the Chiefs slight favorites over the Eagles neutral field just because it's still Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. But I mean, that gap is seriously closing as well. So, but yeah, I think through 4 weeks, those are our 3 top teams. I don't agree with the Packers being the 4th favorite for the Super Bowl at plus 900. I need double that price to get involved on the Packers after what they showed against the great Bailey Zapp. All right, in a second, we're going to jump into 2 teams that we think could rise up and potentially threaten those that top tier of 3. But first, just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, on the NASCAR circuit, and in the Premier League, which I'm much more invested in after my Gunners romped the Tottenham in the North London Derby. Derby, I got to stop saying Derby. I'm Australian. There is also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Bengals and Ravens in our Sunday Night 7 contest. And someone won the predicted contest last night. $50K payout on Chiefs Bucks. And it's a reminder for the contest, like skew to the bands, skew either like really under or really over, because that's the stuff that's correlated. So someone would have had overs on everything last night, and a 41-31 final certainly helped that. Okay, Drew, which team are you buying low on now as a title contender to jump up into that top tier?
Yeah, so it's weird to even say buying low. I mean, there's so many tier 2 teams that I have investments in already, and I would even consider adding at this price to the likes of the Jaguars, the Bengals, a number of these teams that we've talked about. But for me, at least at this moment, I got to go with the Minnesota Vikings, and it is almost entirely schedule related. There are only 4 games left on the Vikings schedule for the remainder of the season. Where 13 games left, only 4 where I think that they are going to be favorites less than a field goal. And that's pretty meaningful. We talked about the Eagles already. They have the easiest remaining strength of schedule by an enormous margin. The Eagles play their average opponent between now and the end of the season is 3.5 points worse than a neutral, which seems impossible. But you go look down that schedule. No one, the Eagles have virtually no threat between now and the end. The next easiest strength of schedule is the Vikings. And so that, I think, sets them up well to take an NFC North crown here. You brought it up. The price for the Packers right now does not reflect reality. The Vikings, of course, have the head-to-head win over that team. And I think, the fact that they're still plus money in the North is kind of crazy. They have 2, Bears this week where they're meaningful favorites. Then they get the Miami Dolphins, and a Dolphins team that we're not exactly sure what's going on at the quarterback position. So good time to catch them. And then they go into their bye. I think by the time we come up for air here, the Vikings are kind of going to be graded in that sort of elite tier. I think set themselves up well for a little playoff run.
Yep, I like that. I think the line this week against the Bears is just completely wrong as well. That's Vikings -7, home to Chicago. Like that's going to close 9.5. That was the line that immediately leapt out as wrong to me in terms of the early openers. I do worry about the Vikings, their ceiling in terms of just Kirk Cousins and a suspect defense gave up 24 points to Andy Dalton. But at the same time, in the NFC, maybe you don't really need a ceiling to get to the Super Bowl, particularly if you have a really good chance at the 2 seed, which is probably where the Vikings top out. But I mean, if it's a 2 seed and then still for the Eagles, as good as they have been, there is a certain lack of fear factor still about Jalen Hurts, rightly or wrongly. It's not like you have to go into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen or go into Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes. So I do think the Vikings, they have some upside in that sense. My team, and it's not really going out on a limb because they are 5th favorite for the Super Bowl, but I do think that Tampa Bay, there is a little bit of a buy low opportunity on them. I actually feel better about Tampa Bay after last night, just because their offense just got back on track. And the fear for me about Tampa Bay's offense was that, well, maybe there's something wrong with Brady, or maybe the offensive line is just not at the level where they can have an elite offense. But I think it's more about the wide receivers. We saw that with Evans and Godwin back last night, the Tampa Bay, they moved the ball much easier. They weren't in huge, high-stress, high-leverage situations. So maybe you take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same point, I do think that the Bucs, I think their defense will be fine. Like, we have 2.5 years of sample now that the defense is just really good. And, teams have bad games against Kansas City. They gave up 41, but it's really more like 34 in a way because of the fumble on the kickoff. So I certainly wouldn't write off the Bucs. And the main optimism there is just that, I mean, are there anyone else you like in the NFC South, Drew?
No, no. The Falcons are hot frauds. The Saints are reeling right now, and the Carolina Panthers might be one of the worst teams in football. No, the Bucs is a fair shout, and I think if as much as there is a buy low, now is the time, considering their next 3 look like pretty comfortable wins. One other kind of buy low I want to get your opinion on here. Should the Seahawks be 40-1 to win the NFC West? 40-1 for the Seahawks? Like, Geno Smith has a live arm. He is completing every freaking pass he throws. And I know DK Metcalf, he may miss some time. I'm not exactly sure how serious his injury is here, but certainly if that offense is going to be plucky, and knocking on wood that the Rams get it done tonight, but if they lose, like the market thinks is a better than 50-50 chance, then all 4 teams are going to be 2-2.
Yeah, you've teased that you're going to surprise me with an underdog in a division. I thought my 2 guesses would have been Arizona and Cleveland. But yeah, look, Seattle, they shouldn't be 40-1. They should probably be like 20-1. So they are definitely long. And Geno's been legitimately good. Like, his PFF grade is off the charts. He has weapons. I just think that the defense, if the Seahawks win the division, it has to be at like 9-8. And the defense just gave up 45 points to Jared Goff, throwing to like Josh Reynolds and me and you. So I do think that they have certainly a cap ceiling, but yeah, 40-1. Yeah, why not? Go Geno. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are they're a fragile team. We know how much they rely on the availability of a couple key players. The Niners, huge questions about what that offense is going to look like, not just now, but for the near term. And talk about an uninspiring win. The Cardinals win over the Panthers was just gross. It was gross. And the Cardinals are so far from right. It is it's almost, I don't know. The gap between those teams, I think, is narrower than the market says.
Someone tweeted out, I can't remember who it was, but they tweeted out the Cardinals almost punted on 4th and goal. Pushed back, which is these ridiculous comical errors. But yeah, I was high on Baker Mayfield. Hold my hand up. I was high on Baker Mayfield going into the season, and he's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. Yeah. There is nothing to hold on to in Carolina. But look, also just a quick note on the Bucs defense. A note from the great Johnny Venezia that the Bucs, that's the first time they've allowed 40 points since week 9 of 2019. I do think that defense will ultimately be fine. Now, before we get into Niners-Rams, the highest leverage game of the week for some, like me and you, if you want more betting, DFS, and fantasy advice right before kickoff tonight, tune into our NFL on NBC Sports YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern as Vaughn Dalzell, Lawrence Jackson, and Kyle Dvoracek answer your questions prior to kickoff between those Rams and those Niners. Okay, wearing the Cooper Cup T-shirt jersey that I bought outside the Super Bowl at SoFi for $15 to celebrate the Super Bowl MVP bet. I think you bought a more expensive actual jersey to pay prior. I would have paid $115 for this T-shirt jersey after the Super Bowl win. So the guy standing outside SoFi, you got to kind of adjust your business plan. I know it was a good night for you because you're on the Rams Super Bowl. I missed that text about the Rams Super Bowl being a price, but it's all right. I got some Cooper Kupp plus 800 MVP. Now, I have my whole big spiel about this game that I'll go into. But first, why do you think Rams plus 1.5 is wrong?
I'm glad you bringing up last season because it does remind me that the high point of all of sports for the entire 2022 calendar was this game in the NFC Championship. The comeback for the Rams and really just clinching their Super Bowl, considering what I had at stake for them to ultimately get it done, was it was a very memorable, very exciting moment. And in general, Sean McVay kind of snapping the spell a little bit. A lot of people coming into this contest with the handicapping angle of Kyle Shanahan owns McVay, and I am not seeing that considering who's available for both the teams in this contest in general. Very excited about the opportunities for some of the star power here on the Rams to shine. In general, I think you have seen an LA Rams offense get cleaner every week so far. They are reducing the amount of turnovers. They are looking somewhat sharper. And I think Stafford is now, having shaken off the rust through the first 3 games after no preseason at all, is going to be sharpened and ready for this particular contest. The Rams were always the bet in my mind in the NFC West this year, because they drew the Niners twice early in the season when we thought it was going to be Trey Lance. And now the fact that it is Jimmy Garoppolo, who had no preseason, on top of the fact that he now has no offensive line, I think this is an absolute perfect storm. Rams ought to be the favorites here. My fair price is minus 118, considering who's available out there. And really the only thing that is going to give me kind of a nervousness watching this one is if the Niners D-line is winning every 1v1. And getting just aggressive pressure, because we saw what happened when the Bills were able to pull that off against the Rams in week 1. So that's maybe the only thing in the back of my head that I'm going to be concerned about. But if the LA Rams offensive line comes to play tonight, then I think they get a pretty comfortable win.
Yep. So here's my thing about this game. Let's go back to January last year in that NFC title game. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites at home in SoFi. Now, home field advantage is worth 1.5 to 2 points. This should be the lower end of that spectrum because the Rams are traveling within the state. They've had an extra day break as well, so rest shouldn't be an issue combined with the travel. So if the home field advantage is worth 1.5 points, then the market is saying that there's been a significant improvement in the Niners since that game versus the Rams. And I don't see that at all, because the market was saying that the Rams were 2 points better than the Niners neutral field for that NFC title game. And now the market is saying these teams are dead even neutral field. Like, how does that make sense? Like, the Niners don't have an offensive line. They've lost 80% of their offensive line, including the best tackle in the sport in Trent Williams. So I don't understand this at all. I know the Rams offensive line isn't as good either, but it's not nearly as dire as San Francisco's. And yes, Jimmy G is healthier. He's also playing a lot worse. Maybe we need to mess up his shoulder again, because he's been dreadful. So I don't understand this line at all. Look, the concern would be, like you said, that the Niners, there is a chance the Niners have the best defense in football. Like, that's in play. They have a really good defense. They have a better defense than the Rams. But at the same time, like, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, they just give you such a high floor as an offense. Yeah. Like, this is a top 10 quarterback at the bottom end of the top 10, but still a top 10 quarterback and the best wide receiver in the game. Like, Cooper Kupp is tier 1 by himself. And maybe we can do a podcast at some point just about Cooper Kupp and his level the past year and a half. But yeah, I mean, he's doing things that are unprecedented, clearly. So I do think as well that Matthew Stafford has been the unluckiest quarterback in the NFL so far in terms of interception luck, in terms of drop rate. That's going to regress. So I just don't see the case for the Niners being favorites. Look, this isn't like a lock. I don't make the Rams touchdown favorites or anything, but I do think the fair line here is Rams -1, and it's plus 1.5 in the market. So This is my biggest bet of the season on a game by far. So if I'm wrong and we're wrong about this, don't come after me, because I'm going to feel plenty bad enough about myself and my own situation, because I'm very invested in this game. So look, that's my thing. If the Rams, if they go down, if Bosa and co overwhelm the Rams offensive line and the Niners win 14-10, which is kind of what I feel like they're going to have to win, then so be it. And we go down that way. But until then, Rams house. Any last thoughts, Drew?
I mean, that's the beauty of having skin in the game and doing this type of work that we're doing. Like, if we're wrong, it's not just like, oh, well, sorry, I was wrong, guy. No, it's gonna hurt. Like, it's not gonna feel good.
Yeah,
we're gonna be wearing it. But at the same time, you didn't even mention there are like the Rams offense. It's more than just Stafford and Kupp. Yeah. Like Stafford is building a little bit of chemistry with Skoranek. He's got a decent target share to Higbee. Higbee's healthy. Higbee was not healthy in that game against the Niners in the NFC Championship game. They're not even deploying or using Allen Robinson at this point. And so there is enough diversity in that passing game that I think I would expect in general, McVay pulls a rabbit out of his hat here and has a solid offensive game plan. Really and truly, like, the Rams' schedule is very easy. They do not have a ton of tough tests. If they have saved things for these two head-to-heads versus the Niners early in the season, they can basically put away the NFC West early here and kind of try to just stay healthy and stay right and prepare for a playoff push, because they're thinking Super Bowl or bust this season. We know this. And so, this should be a time for them to shine.
Yep. Cooper Kupp against San Francisco last season caught 29 of 34 passes, 382 yards and 3 scores across the 3 matchups, had 100+ yards in each game. Good luck with him, San Francisco. I felt better about our Rams case before you started talking about Skoranek and Higbee in the positive column, but that's okay. They're just tangential. They're tangential figures, but Higbee's been really good.
Yeah, he has.
Sean McVay, do not give the ball to Cam Akers. I beg of you.
Anything but that. Oh, God.
If Cam Akers has 15 carries, it better be because they're running out a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth. I don't want any part of Cam Akers and his fumbles and his 2.9 yards per carry and all of that. So please, with Stafford and Kupp, bring us home. Let's relive the Super Bowl. Let's relive the NFC title game. Please, Sean McVay. All right, we're done. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. From me, Jay Croucher, and Drew Dinsick, we are out. Go Rams. Please, go Rams. And we'll be back tomorrow.